Today we are off on a huge road trip toy hunt to one of the biggest toy shops under one roof, Frank & Son in Los Angeles. But we're gonna do things a little bit different. It's so big, I'm gonna draw you guys a map. And I give some hunting tips for finding vintage Star Wars in the wild. So let's go. So yeah, it's almost 6 a.m. I haven't had my coffee yet. That's better. So, today's toy hunt. This isn't just gonna be a regular toy hunt. You know, I don't do regular. All right, hold on. So I have my notebook, kind of like a nice space theme. I've got the camera rig all ready to go, and I also have Lexi. Today I'm going to one of the biggest toy shops under one roof, Frank & Son. And it's my first time there. And I've only heard the stories and watched other people's videos. But the thing I really haven't seen is where is all the good vintage inside that place. And Frank & Son's is not your typical toy shop, no. I'm going on the hunt for two figures that I need, the Biker Scout and Nikto. I can't buy anything else unless it revolves around them. Famous last words? And to make it easier for all of you to follow along exactly where I am inside that shop, I'm gonna draw a map of where I go and exactly the stores that have Star Wars vintage in them. He-Man, Transformers, Voltron, anything that I find that I think is good vintage, it's going on that map. But I really have no idea what Frank & Son is or how they started. So you know me, I like to research. Here is a short history on the Frank & Son Collectible Show. The Frank & Son Collectible Show was created in 1988 by collectors Frank and Janet Zamaripa for collectors. It started within a 500 square foot warehouse space in the Frank & Son Warehousing and Trucking Company. In 1997, with the show's success and popularity, it was moved to a standalone warehouse that spanned the show over 65,000 square feet. This space contained the largest and best collection of vendors under one roof, always carrying the newest, hottest, and rare collectibles. The show is known worldwide and continues to grow with the support of the collectible industry, the customers, and vendors. Not only is admission free, but parking is free as well. So after getting dressed, getting the camera gear ready, and getting Lexi ready to go, we hit the road. But we have to stop and get my favorite road trip breakfast, Jack in the Box.
All right, thank you for Jack in the Box. I'll take your order.
For those of you who haven't discovered the magic of the Breakfast Jack, do yourself a favor. So I live in San Diego, and Frank & Son's is located near Los Angeles in the city of industry. And that's about a 2-hour drive for me. But if you have some good audiobooks or podcasts, Padawan collector, the time flies by pretty fast. When you finally get to Frank & Son's, make sure you park in the section of the parking lot that says free parking. They will fine you if you park outside of the free parking zone. And I think it was like $400 to $600. Outside of the free parking zone, they only give you a 1-hour limit. And trust me, you're gonna go way past that 1-hour limit, and by the time you realize it, $400 fine, or $600. And walking into the space, it is massive. It's definitely like walking into a Costco that sells nothing but toys and pop culture goodness. So here's what we're gonna do first. So we're at the entrance, and this will be home base. There are 9 main aisles, with an alcove on the far left, and a food court near the entrance, and a back aisle. There's also a mini convention space at the rear past the back aisle where special events are held. But when I came today, that part was closed off. So we're gonna start where we should always start, at the beginning. As you enter and go to the left, you'll find Booth 100, and this is the home of Dark Helmet Collectibles, and they have copious amounts of vintage. I've always wanted to use that word on a show. Dan and his team were super helpful and super friendly. If you check out their outer displays, they have a huge amount of vintage Star Wars. But we are on the hunt for Nikto and the Biker Scout. And for Nikto being the peg warmer that he was in the 80s, you would think that a figure like that would be spilling out of the cases, right? There wasn't a single Nikto in that case. And even though they had a whole row of Biker Scouts, not a single one came complete. But we do have our eye on a box speeder bike. Hey, I said anything revolving them, right? So we're gonna mark that on the map and head to the next spot, the left Out Cove. And if you're into card collecting like Pokemon or Magic the Gathering, then this section is for you. But for me, it's not. So let's go down aisle 100. And stopping at aisle 100 end cap, it's also booth 100, owned by Dark Helmet Collectibles. And inside, today it's all about being copious. Yes, copious amounts of vintage, not only from lines that were popular with boys in the 80s, but there were ones that were popular with girls. My sister would love this place. The item I had to honestly pull some restraint on was their Voltron section, and I almost bought this line set for $150. At least I know where to go after my Star Wars run is over. So continuing down aisle 100, booth 100 continues down and has a nice display where we spotted some vintage glassware. And then heading to booth 108, now here is a great vendor with a ton of Star Wars figures, Hot Toys, Sideshow, Black Series, and replica props. No vintage, but I wanted to call this one out since they have so much cool stuff to offer. So leaving booth 108, we go back down aisle 100, and the rest was mostly comics and collecting cards, and as we get to the end, there's more card vendors. So we go back to the beginning and start again. And now going down aisle 200, this aisle mostly has anime, comics, some modern Star Wars figures, and a vendor with a huge assortment of Funkos. So we're gonna head back to the beginning and start down aisle 300. But before we go on, make sure to like this video. That does support the channel. And also, make sure to subscribe to see more Star Wars and collecting content. Starting on aisle 300, we see a ton of cool pop culture art, a wrestling vendor, Funkos, backpacks, and in the second half of 300, comics, and the biggest wall of Funkos ever. A ton of anime, Marvel, and at the end of the aisle, more card collectibles, but no vintage in aisle 300. And heading down aisle 400, a ton of Funkos in the beginning, more Funkos in the middle, and heading down to the second half of 400, a lot of anime, Disney collectibles, which is cool, and a place for sneakerheads. Well, well, well. Vintage. This is booth 431. And of course, the first thing I spot is a Voltron for $380. Gorgeous. And that was not the only Voltron thing I saw. They have a ton of vintage Transformers mixed in with modern figures as well. And they also had a hidden piece of Star Wars vintage, but the box looked a little beat up. And moving on to the end of aisle 400, a Hot Wheels shop, which is cool, and more card collectibles. Now we hit aisle 500, and this aisle was probably the most crowded. Let's go see why. Starting out, we have a ton of Funkos, anime, and in the middle of the aisle, we have a Sideshow and Hot Toys booth, booth 505, super bad action figures. They have the best selection of Hot Toys and Sideshow figures and statues that I have ever seen in one spot. A great display. So if you ever get a chance to come here, booth 505 is where you want to go. Amazing pieces of art. And I just unboxed my first Hot Toy Ahsoka, so here's the link to watch that video, of course, after you watch this one. And right across the way, we found a very cool booth, number 512. And this place has a cool selection of vintage from Garbage Pail Kids, Care Bears, vintage wrestling, Transformers, He-Man, Mask, and dude, vintage cassettes. Yes. They also have a nice selection of modern Marvel, Star Wars, and DC. And going down to the second half of 500, there's a great place for graphic t-shirts and a place for vintage and modern video games. And we found a hoverboard. And then at the end cap, it was pretty much anime and cards. And now we go back to the beginning of the store. And right in front of aisle 600, next to the vintage McDonald's tree, is a small food court. There's also a snack bar next to it. And at Mrs. Z's Kitchen, I recommend the turkey and Swiss sandwich. And now we get to aisle 600. And we start out with a place that has some really cool art, anime statues, backpacks, Marvel figures, and a place for vintage and modern video games. And then at booth 611, we hit the motherlode, a ton of Star Wars vintage. The booth is ran by Enforce Collectibles, and they have a rad selection. So the first thing we did was look for a loose complete Biker Scout and a Nikto. And although they had a Biker Scout, it was not complete. But looking around, they have a ton of cool vintage Star Wars, and I was super tempted to take a look at the boxed Creature Cantina set. But staying on the mission, we decided to look for a Nikto. But look at what I found. One of my holy holy grails, the bootleg Uze Blue Stars. And look at how much it costs, an arm and a leg. I didn't ask the real price or check the card for its authenticity, but if it's real, that is a true grail piece. This booth has a ton of vintage, some nice graded figures, nice boxed mini rigs, vintage Ewoks cartoon figures, droids cartoon figures, and a great looking speeder bike mint in box. And that was one that the store owner noticed that I was looking at, so we may have to come back after we take a look at the whole store. They also have a rad selection of mint in sealed box items and mint in box playsets, vehicles, and mini playsets. And they have a huge selection of mint on card from every Star Wars vintage release. And let me just say this, I have a pet peeve when sellers put rare on the item description. A gold 63rd Jedi coin? Now that's rare. But a carded Han Solo in a Carbonite tri-logo? May be hard to find in the US, but rare? Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this. But back to the mission, no Nikto. There was a carded Nikto that I was really tempted to buy, and although I would love to pick it up, we're gonna come back after we search the rest of the store. And moving down aisle 600, I found a rad vintage music store at booth 617. Old vinyl, cassettes, CDs of bands that I used to listen to, and I was really tempted to walk out with some cassettes, even though I'd have to buy a boombox or a Walkman to play them. So heading down to the second half of 600, there was a really cool fantasy and D&D store, so I wanted to give a shout out to this booth. And heading down towards the end, more Funkos, more anime, and a massive backpack store, and some more card vendors. And before we go on, please visit the PadawanCollector.com, where you can see blogs, past videos, updated news, and the Collector Depot for accessories that you may need for your collection. And I also have my collector sheet available for free, but it won't be free for long, so make sure you go down there, visit the store, and download yours for free. So starting down aisle 700, on the back wall is some really cool sports and McDonald's memorabilia. The 700 aisle was mostly a sports collecting aisle, but if you are into collecting in this genre, aisle 700 is definitely for you. The selection for sports memorabilia is huge on this aisle, but sadly, I didn't see a significant number of Star Wars vintage cards here, so don't expect to see a large selection of those at all. But on the end of 700 was a really cool Star Wars cosplay and replica prop booth. So if you're into that, definitely check out this store, and here's the number to call in case you want anything. So going into 800, on the back wall, I saw a really cool display with Deadpool, so let's go down 800. This aisle was mostly anime, J-pop, and K-pop items, and Pokemon and Magic the Gathering cards as well. And heading down to the last aisle, aisle 900, at the start of the aisle are some really cool displays that have some excellent vintage items and a super rad lunchbox display. And if you look up, there's a huge old Toys R Us sign, which brings back a lot of memories. And a display of vintage items from all pop culture, and that was really cool to take a moment and look through these. Alright, so going down the main aisle of 900. Looking up, there's some huge modern Star Wars theater lobby displays. And going down the main aisle, it's mostly anime, K-pop, and J-pop items, a cool Lego store where I may have found a future mini rig rabbit hole. And at the end of the aisle is a really cool Transformer shop, Cybertron Park, at booth 918. So if you're into modern and vintage Transformers, this is your shop. But after going over the whole shop, I was still on the hunt for a Nikto and a Biker Scout. So I decided to go back to the two stores that had the copious amounts of vintage, Dark Helmet Collectibles and End Force Collectibles. And since I went through the entire store, I could really take my time talking to the owners and really search through everything they have. So looking at Dark Helmet Collectibles again, we took the time to ask for complete versions of the Biker Scout and Nikto, but it was confirmed that they didn't have one. And we asked for a price on the speeder bike, and they're selling this one for $225. So we decided to go back to booth 611, Enforce Collectibles, to do some price comparisons and also ask if they have any loose complete Biker Scouts or Niktos. At this point, we can take our time. And we found a complete Biker Scout that came with a card back for $150. Now, doing some research on this figure and the card back, this figure was released in 1983 on the 65A card back, and this one in the store is the 79 card back with the Anakin Skywalker sticker applied to it. And looking on the Star Wars tracker, the loose figure average height point is coming in at around $50. So this is where knowing the factories where the figure comes from comes into play. So the factories that this figure would have been made in was the Cater factory, which also sent parts to Meccano in France and PBP in Spain, the Taiwan factories, the Hong Kong Unitoy. But the Lily Letty factory produced a slightly different molded biker scout, and the easiest way to spot is in the mouth. Here's the face of the Hong Kong biker, and here is the Lily Letty biker. It has a shorter mouth. A Lily Letty biker can fetch upwards to $100 if it's a pristine loose figure and with the correct darker gray blaster. But looking at this one for sale, it is not a Lily Letty. It has the longer mouth. So I decided to pass on this one because I thought the price was too high. That's how knowing the figure factories and the nuances can work in your favor when hunting in the wild. I did find a mint on card that I was willing to buy. It has a shaved POP, it's punched, the bubble has some very slight yellowing, and the blaster is still taped. And I was able to get this one for $85 because of the imperfections in the card. But I bought it at the price on one condition from the seller, that I buy the speeder bike mint in box that I was eyeing. Now, he wanted $125 for it, so we took a look on our app at what they're going for boxed. The prices are coming in at $90 on the low end and about $170 on the high end. And I told him I could do $100 cash, and he accepted. And here's why I couldn't pay $125. The main reason was this crease in the box. This is very common for these boxes to have, so it's worth more if the crease is not there. But overall, it's a great example of a box for display. The back art with the crease has the Biker Scout and Chief Chirpa. On the bottom is the legal, the POP, and the country of origin, in this case, Taiwan. The front of the box has the same art as the rear, with the instructions on top of the box fold and a solo image of the biker and speeder on the front flap. The two sides are identical and have a solo image of the bike. And trying to open the box, one side is still factory taped. This speeder comes with a cardboard insert, and you have to make sure that the inserts are the original and not a modern reproduction, especially the cardboard ones, which are easily recreated. These inserts also came in white plastic. It also comes with the instruction sheet, and most importantly, the speeder bike itself. It comes broken down into 3 pieces: the front stabilizing fins, the main body, and the top cover with the seat. On the body, you should make sure the back flaps are intact and connected, and that the springs in the landing legs work. Also, that the release mechanism lever is unbroken and the release joint works. And also make sure the laser turret is there and swivels correctly. The handlebars should be unbroken and they both should be on there. To put the bike together, connect the front of the top cover on the main frame first, then connect to the rear frame. It should snap in place. Slide the stabilizing fin into the body and it should fit firmly with no resistance. To make it explode, just press the knapsack in the back. It's cool, right? I used to have this as a kid. But I'm still missing one big thing: the actual Biker Scout to ride this thing. I decided to get 2. One that I can place in that case and also put on the bike when I want to. So I got one from eBay for $33.44. It came in a flimsy mailer, and it has a small, slight red tint to it, which I may follow up on a future episode and try to get rid of that. And I also wanted to get a great one for grading. So I went to my friends over at Orange Droid Vintage Toys to get one, and they sent over a great looking figure. And we got that for a total of $55. So we're gonna put the grading figure away in our figure drawer until we send it off for a grade. But we get to place our Biker Scout on the speeder bike. And I also got an acrylic case for the bike from Ian's Displays for $29.50. So today we pretty much completed our entire Biker Scout run. We got the loose Biker Scout for our case, and we also got the loose Biker Scout that we're gonna send off for a grade. We got the mint on card Biker Scout, and we got the very nice boxed speeder bike. One big happy vintage family. So there's only one thing left to do: put this in our case from Collector Displays. And while we're on the subject of cases, I want to thank you all for getting us to 10,000 subscribers. And to say thank you, I've teamed up with the maker of that case, Collector Displays. And we're gonna do a giveaway. And this is the exact case that we're giving away. And this is gonna be one of 2 episodes that you can enter on. So make sure to enter in this one and the next episode. And all you have to do to qualify to enter, be a subscriber to this YouTube channel, the Padawan Collector. Follow Collector Displays on Instagram, and follow me, the Padawan Collector, on Instagram. And all of those links are down there in the description of this video. And to officially enter, go down to the comments and type in #display. And you have until Thursday, August 11th, 2022 at midnight Pacific Daylight Time to enter. There's no fee to enter. Shipping is free to the winner, so all you have to do is qualify and enter. And I'm gonna announce the winner on a live stream August 13th, 2022 at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And be sure to watch next week's episode for another chance to enter. And thank you to Drew over at Collector Displays for donating such an awesome giveaway. And do yourself a favor and go check out their website to view all the amazing cases they have, plus a sneak peek into a brand new case system that they're creating right now. Here's their website on the screen, and there's also a link down there in that description. So thank you for joining me on that road trip to the Frank & Son Collectible Show. And what is a road trip without stopping at one of your favorite places to eat? And this is my favorite taco shop to stop at of all time. So if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. That does support the channel. And please consider subscribing if you want to see more Star Wars and collecting content from me. And also, hit that notification bell so you know when the episodes go live. I post videos every Sunday with bonus content throughout the week. And as always, my friends, thank you, and I will see you next time. If you're new to the channel, check out the welcome video, or just check out the next episode. And please subscribe if you want to follow the journey. And remember, there is no shame in being a Padawan.